Hi, let me take you into the story of holiday lets. Why do we need to know about holiday lets? Well, let's put a title up there first of all for you, holiday lets. The reason we need to know about holiday lets is because, yes, it's in the CMAP and you may get questions on the topic, which is fair play. That's the way it rolls really, isn't it? But also you might have clients when you're a mortgage advisor, mortgage broker, who are landlords, and landlords are now looking to diversify away from vanilla properties into more lucrative properties such as HMOs or houses of multiple occupation, your student houses, where you can have 5 or 6 people all paying a lot of rent. It's all about maximising yield. Another way of maximising yield, of course, is to take care of a holiday let. Now let me talk about holiday lets, what they are, how they work, and then the advantages of having them as well. Now, of course, the issue with holiday lets now is Airbnb. Now, you may well have used Airbnb. My partner and I have used them many times. It's an online portal which allows you to rent a room or a house or a shed or whatever you've got to anybody that wishes to pay you some money. So you've got a holiday let, of course. You can use Airbnb to advertise and promote your holiday cottage to the world, not just to like the locality. And people from all over Europe will travel down to Cornwall and places like that to rent out properties via Airbnb. So it's really going to take off. And a lot of lenders now are introducing mortgages now called the Airbnb mortgage. You might have heard of it. A lot of specialist lenders are doing it now as well. And some mainstream ones too. The Leeds Building Society are doing an Airbnb type mortgage as well. So we're looking at one ourselves for our property portfolio. We're going to be looking at a holiday let at some point because it has many, many advantages. In fact, when we were down in Porthleven in Cornwall, so there's Cornwall for you, not very good, but Porthleven is a lovely little sleepy town just down near the Lizard. It's a foodie town, so it's very popular with people. And we saw this property in Porthleven called the Doll's House. You might want to Google it. It's really famous. It's a tiny little place built in like a sort of a triangular sort of floor plan. And it's, I think it's 1 bedroom. It's tiny, but it's cheap. Well, cheap for Cornish properties anyway. And this particular property, which is a terrace house, so I'll just draw a property there for you. This particular property, called the Doll's House, there you go. Hence, of course, it's very small, as you can appreciate. It's priced at £200,000, which for a property in Porthleven actually is pretty good. Now, the point about holiday lets, though, is that you can borrow money on the basis of a holiday let in the same way in which you would do a buy-to-let. So first of all, of course, you need a deposit of 25% at least. So you're looking to get a mortgage of 75% loan to value. Here we go, 75% LTV. So it's the same concept as a buy-to-let. Now, how does the lender work out the borrowing? Well, as you know, with buy-to-lets, there's no income from a salary from the person buying the property. They ignore that. The landlord's ignored totally. Yeah, they do a credit search on them. What they're looking at, of course, is the rent. Now, the rent on a holiday cottage is very, very different to the rent on a vanilla buy-to-let. I mean, I rent this property here. We rent this together, and it's £1,200 a month. And the landlord makes that money every month for 10 or 11 months until the next tenant comes in. And that's fine. It's easy to work out. And lenders, of course, use that rent to work out the maximum mortgage that you can have. And they call it rental coverage. 125% is typical, so that they're looking for your mortgage payment, of course, to be easily affordable with the rent that you're receiving. They want the rent to be higher than the mortgage payment. That's the whole point. So there'll be void periods, and there'll be periods where you're having to spend money on maintenance, etc. So they want the rent to be higher, 125% higher, sometimes 145% higher than the actual mortgage payment you got. Now that's fine, makes sense, easy to do. If you've got a holiday let, though, these are different. Now, holiday lets, for example, you've got sort of 7 weeks in the summer, the typical sort of August period when Cornwall gets full of tourists and families. You can make from this property here probably about £1,000 a week. So you're making £4,000 in a month, on rent, rather than sort of vanilla 1,200 quid. But in the winter months, you're not going to earn so much. There's off-peak periods. Probably in the winter, you'd probably be able to rent that place out for about £500 per week. If, of course, you can rent it out, because not everybody wants to take a holiday in Cornwall in the winter. It's a beautiful part of the world, but it's not exactly sunshine on the beach. So you've got to make sure that you've got the right market. Now, what they do, the lenders here, is they take the normal rental value of that property. So if that property has been rented to somebody full time, they'll take that rental value and they'll use that in their rental coverage calculation. Excuse me. Makes sense, really, if you think about it. So that's the way that the mortgage is granted. Let's take a look at the advantages now of this property. Why would you want a holiday let rather than a normal buy-to-let? Well, the first thing is that you would want to turn this into what they call a furnished holiday let, or FHL. Let's get a different colour pen here for you. We call that a furnished holiday let. Now, obviously, you have to furnish it, holiday let. But you define it as a furnished holiday let with a local authority, and effectively you're running a business. That's how they see it. You're running a business which allows you to make money and to provide a service. Now, because it's a business, that none of the tax disadvantages of normal buy-to-lets occur here. In other words, you get all of your mortgage interest taken off of your rent before you pay tax. You know, with normal buy-to-lets now it's down to the basic rate shortly. Also, you have capital allowances. So if, for example, you want to buy yourself a great big American fridge, you know, these great big things, you know, with the water dispensers and everything in it. If you want to put one of those into the property, that costs, say, £2,000, then that can be offset against your tax as a capital allowance. So they'll depreciate that probably over 3 years, I would have thought. So there's some useful tax advantages in having a holiday let. And you can own it in your own name. You don't have to put it in a limited company unless you want to. So, you know, there's major advantages in that situation. Obviously, the big advantage is you're going to get more rent. Makes sense, you know, if you market it properly, and you get £1,000 a week in sort of July, August, you can make your money in a couple of months. That's the way it works. But obviously, sometimes you may not have it rented at all. So pretty good income in that, pretty good advantage in that respect as well. There's also capital gains tax relief as well because it's a business. So there's rollover relief for capital gains. So you need to look at that as well. That's pretty useful. So they're the advantages. Now, there are some disadvantages. First of all, you need to make sure that you get it rented. There are some rules, as you can imagine there would be. And the rules are quite simple to remember. There's two figures, and I'll squeeze them here for you. 105, semicolon, and 210. So what they're saying here is that the property must be available for rental 210 days in a year. So you can use it yourself, of course you can, in down periods. That's another advantage. But it must be available for rent 200 days a year. And you must successfully rent it 105 days in the year. So you've got to get your finger out. You've got to get yourself going. You've got to get your marketing going. You've got to actually physically rent it in order for it to be defined as a furnished holiday let. And therefore you get all the tax benefits from it. So that's the major downturn, if you like. Beware of recession, downturn in the market. And if you have a normal buy-to-let property or a normal rented property and you've got a tenant, a recession is going to affect people, of course it is, but people have still got to live somewhere, and invariably they will find the rent. They'll probably cancel their Sky bill or whatever, or their Gloucester Rugby membership or something, and they'll carry on paying the rent. Now, with holiday lets, it's different. When there's recessions, people cut back, and holidays are one of the first things to go. However, foreign holidays go, and people tend to staycate more than they do otherwise. Back in 2008, 2009, 2010, when we had the last recession, the staycationings itself was quadrupling in demand. Now, the other thing to think about is, are you marketing this to the right audience? So, for example, if you market it to families, then believe me, families with children, whatever they do, they try and get a holiday with the kids. I remember deep in the recession, we went out and bought a tent, stayed in a tent in a field in Devon for a couple of weeks because the kids needed a holiday, although we couldn't afford one. So it makes sense. Market it to a family and you might be able to get it recession proof. So you need to think about that as well. The other disadvantage is it takes time to maintain the property, to look after it. You've got to get a cleaner in there to clean it after each person. You've got to change all the sheets. You've got to furnish it, obviously, maintain it, fix it up, of course. Things go wrong, families, dogs, if you've got those as well. You've got to get there when people turn over, put the key in a box so people have availability for that as well. You've got to market it. You've got to get your website going. Airbnb does an awful lot for you now as well. Excuse me. They'll take a cut, of course they will, but Airbnb is a pretty good way of marketing the property. So you've got to make sure that you do that. And there'll be void periods as well. So yes, no. Would you think about it yourself if you wanted a holiday let or a portfolio of properties? A lot of landlords are thinking about it as well. One thing about Airbnb though to be aware of is if you use it to rent out a room for private purposes, make some money, the taxman are actually going on to Airbnb and checking people that are renting rooms, and they're writing to you asking you to declare the income. So be careful of that one. Hope that's been useful. Holidays. Bye.